Oh, why did I mumble? Why did I swallow that? And why am I so loud on that? And why, oh, geez.
Yeah, all that.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
There was a line he just didn't want to say, really. And we finally,
and
one
that
of them
way.
we finally got out of him in looping. He just didn't want to, he kept mumbling
What was
it.
the line?
Oh, I'm not going to say
Oh,
it.
come on,
But one
Nora.
of
What
my
was the line?
friends,
I don't even remember what it was.
What was the line?
good night, Howard.
Oh,
You
yeah,
just
yeah,
could not
yeah.
say it. He
Big
had to
one.
kiss the teddy bear, and he couldn't
Say to the
do
teddy
it.
bear.
It was just too corny.
Why not? Welcome to our broadcast. Tonight, a look at one of Hollywood's big summer movies, the one that is not about dinosaurs, mountain climbing, or action heroes, Nora Ephron's Sleepless in Seattle. The star of that film, Tom Hanks, joins me now. Later, writer and director Nora Ephron. Hanks plays a recently widowed man whose son takes the job of finding a new mother into his own hands. So on Christmas Eve, the son places a call to a radio psychologist. Meg Ryan hears the program and can't stop crying. This film is Ephron's second directorial effort, and it tells the story of how two people who've never met and live on opposite ends of the United States can fall in love. Tom Hanks first starred in the mega hit Splash and was nominated for an Oscar for Penny Marshall's Big. Last summer he appeared in A League of Their Own. He will soon be seen in Jonathan Demme's much anticipated film about a young lawyer with AIDS called Philadelphia. We're pleased to have Tom Hanks here. Nora Ephron joins us in just a few minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, boy. I've worked too much if it took that long.
To read that, yeah. Did you saw two scripts on this before you decided to do it? I mean, did something happen between the first script and the second script?
Well, the way these things happen is that they're often laying around for years at a time, and an earlier incarnation of it had passed my way, but I don't remember taking anything more than a cursory look at it.
Yeah.
Because it was in that kind of gray area of possibility as opposed to something that actually had some sort of jungle drum beat to it,
Right.
of activity. So when it came across my transom with Nora's name attached to it, an awful lot of heat and buzz and whatever, I took another look, and it had. I was aware that it had changed.
What's jungle
drum beat to it?
Yeah, what's that?
Well, there's this point in a movie's existence. It's a very ephemeral kind of thing. But there are times when movies are they're very close to actually being made.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, actually probably 75% of the time, that doesn't even happen. Eventually the heat backs off. But when they're very close to being made, and names are being bandied about, and they're saying, well, Nora Ephron is interested in the possibility, and Meg Ryan has read it, and she's Mike Medavoy, the thing, and so there's all of a sudden your phone call ratio jacks up, to 5 times its normal, and they're all about this one individual thing. Well, then something's going to pop any second here, so you pay a little bit more attention.
What attracted you? Why'd you want to do this one beyond the fact that Nora had written it had rewritten it and was going to direct it?
Well, it's an awfully clean piece of screenwriting. It has this overpoweringly truthful idea to it that is pretty free of artifice. An awful lot of movies you read in screenplay form, you take probably like 35 pages in order to figure out what's going on and who's got the suitcase full of money on page 25 and why are they chasing the guy.
Yeah.
And this was very straight setup right off the bat. The character's motivation and his position, and then what happens. The only real contrivance that you have to buy in the movie. This is one of my 3 things to say about it.
Yeah, right.
We'll get back to that later. Is that
Arnold Schwarzenegger once gave you some advice
rule
that
of
said,
3 things to say about the
decide
movie.
3 things you want to say about the movie, and whatever the host or the anchor asks, repeat those 3 things. Right?
But you asked the perfect question, so I'm actually I'm not bluffing you into talking about it at all. The only thing you have to believe is that somebody's talking on the radio in one city and somebody's listening to him somewhere else. It's a very artifice-free movie.
Yeah, but can you believe Annie's obsession in this case?
Well,
Is it a stretch to take that?
No, I don't. I think that all of us have probably seen a glimmer of somebody on TV or heard a voice in the nighttime radio, and you've just thought, now that's a good person.
Yeah.
That's a nice person. I'd like to go out to dinner with him. I think she could be my friend because I'm so lonely right now, and I need a friend like the woman I'm listening to.
Now,
I think it's possible.
The notion of a romantic comedy, Is that appealing to you to do romantic comedies?
Well, I think there's a lot of bogus romantic comedies out there that lay claim to being romantic comedies, that say they're romantic, are labeled romantic, and pushed and marketed as romantic comedies, and they're never very either comedic or romantic, because there's some big bogus kind of thing that's involved there. I worked with a director, Moshe Mizrahi, and he said movies, he was a very passionate guy, and he said movies are like mayonnaise. You know, you can add the eggs and the oil, and sometimes it comes out mayonnaise and sometimes it doesn't. And I think the very fact that it's so gossamer and light and requires very careful thought and a deft touch make romantic comedies very difficult to pull off and be effective. It's one thing to slap a bunch of syrupy, sappy music on there and say, well, I guess I'm supposed to cry now. But in order to actually have the emotion be the thing that drives the movie and have it be true, that's a very hard thing to come across.
When people make these comparisons between you and James Stewart and Cary Grant,
it's the height of ludicrousness. I don't get it.
But is anything attractive about that?
Being compared to Cary Grant?
Yes.
I'll take it.
But as a career and as that kind of romantic comedy lead, as a signature.
Well, yeah, because those guys were the best at what they did.
And they
it's
had a
much
long
better than
career.
saying, yeah, and it's had a long career. It's much better than being compared to Van Johnson. Not to take anything away from Van Johnson, but if the choice is between Cary Grant and Van Johnson, well, please call me Cary Grant.
Cary Grant or even Jimmy Stewart.
Oh yeah.
Why was Punchline, in your judgment, the best thing you've done?
Well, it came along at a time where I wasn't thinking about my process or craft. I was just doing it. You know, I wasn't out trying to prove anything. I wasn't yearning in order to do something I hadn't done. And Punchline was a story about stand-up comedians, of whom I know an awful lot, and about just people in general who are funny, which I sort of lump myself in that half of humanity. And it was an uncompromising look, I think, at the kind of trade-off that some people make when they're funny for a living, where they're up on stage and there is no substitute for that world. Unfortunately, they have to then get off stage and then deal with real life. And I didn't recognize the guy either on paper or up on screen. I didn't think, oh, that's me up there doing those kind of tricks that I do.
But when you saw this performance as Sam, did you say, that's me, I understand?
Well, no, not because there's a level of gravity to what Sam is going through that I have yet to really had to handle.
Which is the death of a wife
and
and grieving and feeling like that was a magical relationship that you'll never have again.
When I am quiet and subtle on screen, those are precious commodities in my life that I'm not often able to pull together at times when I really should be. So given the chance to, I think not let enthusiasm overtake me as far as a role and just say things loud and fast or funny, but when I'm actually able to land upon you know, a much more, I think, approachable aspect of being a man, a human being in America in the present time, that always kind of surprised me. I'm always very pleased when I have a chance to do that.
Does it make a difference in this case that the director, had written the screenplay or rewritten it?
That's a big thing.
How is that a big thing? Why does it make a difference?
Well, one, because the middleman is eliminated.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right. You speak to one person.
Somebody out there is not going to be really, really mad because you changed these lines. But Nora, in her writing and in her directing, knows what the scene is about. So the idea of changing words or rearranging stuff, or you say that and I'll say this instead, and can we delay this till later on till I come to the door? That kind of stuff doesn't matter. So it's not about protecting the form, it's protecting what the scene is about. Now you can't monkey around with that, and Nora will not let you. But because she was completely, you know, she was so hands-on as far as the script goes, both she and Delia.
Delia, her sister.
Her sister, yeah, who was one of the producers as well. You're able to not bother with the stuff that can just drive a movie into a chaotic state and you'll never get anything done. She knows what the scene is about. She drives you to that, and you can change all the stuff that doesn't matter or play around with it or monkey around with it. But she will make sure that you're still actually acting out the beat that the scene is supposed to uphold.
After you made Bonfire.
Bonfire of the Vanities?
Yes.
Yeah.
and whatever, and all that came out of that.
A little movie
a
called
little
Bonfire
movie
of
called
the
Bonfire. What did you say to yourself about what I want to do next?
Well, I actually almost went off and made another movie that only fell apart at the last minute through no fault of my own. I didn't have a plan. I didn't look at the the overall kind of collapse of that movie as being the harbinger of something that I had to do or not do.
Was it a crusher for you in any way?
Listen, when a movie is doing very well, every day is Christmas. You just can't. You have weeks of just, hey, I feel great. And when a movie is not doing very well, and its fact is, I tell you that they were still, that movie, Bonfire came out on Christmas Day or the day before Christmas.
It was an awful
I
Christmas.
was still tuning in the CBS Sunday morning show, and they were in the middle of January, and some guy was still going on and on about what we did wrong on that movie. Every day is Vietnam when that movie.
You said, I surrender,
I give up.
Whatever you want.
The war of attrition has taken it out of me. So you can't deny it. But I was always, you're always in the constant search for the story is well told, and it doesn't really matter, where your place is in that. You just want to be a part of it.
And the lesson of all that was what? That you can be in a bad movie and they make them just like they make good movies?
That is exactly the chaos. Well, because now there's also the chronicle of making Bonfire. Julie Solomon, I think, just loves it every time I go out on a press junket because out it comes for the devil's candy. But yes, the odds are against you making a good movie.
Why is it so hard?
The committee process and the amount of time that it takes. Well, this is actually my theory that I discovered kind of a long time ago, is that a movie has to be made beautifully 3 separate times. It has to be written beautifully.
Right.
And that takes months, sometimes years. And then it has to be made beautifully, and between pre-production actually shooting the movie and the casting and all that is a huge amount of time where any number of wrong choices can be made that will lead you down the line.
And then the editing.
And then it has to be put together beautifully as well. And the odds of doing that well 3 times is.
And have you seen it done really well at the first stage? A great script, B, beautifully shot and well acted, and it lost it in the editing room?
Well, I don't know if I'd like to say that I'm so objective about the process that I know exactly when it's going on down the line. But no, you make a leap of faith because you're somehow attracted to the material, and maybe you're not as cognizant enough or not to realize that this isn't that good, but you're still attracted to it. And what are you going to do? But yeah, I've seen other movies. I have also read movies that read wonderfully.
Yeah. Did League of Their Own read well?
Actually, League of Their Own probably had more elements to it than you saw up on the screen, but it always read. For some reason, even though it had a bunch of different characters and a busload, literally a busload of people that you were mostly involved in, there was still something about it that always came through overpoweringly positive. And that came out in the movie. So
you said about that it was first time you had a chance to be a man.
Yeah.
What did you mean?
Well, the character that I played there. Actually, this is another thing about the bonfire scenario, which never ever goes away. There's any number of reasons would say I should never have played that role, and even in the course of talking about this movie, it always comes back to that. But the next role that I appeared in the national consciousness was another role that I never should have been cast for in a million years. A fat, overweight, legendary home run hitter who once hit 50. And look, these wrists have never stroked 58 home runs in a season. But the chance to be able to kind of blow the visual picture kind of out of proportion there, and not be cute and have a history. I think the history of the guy was sad. It was a weight that he carried around with him. So I think I was attracted to it because that was really the first time that I had a big opportunity in a good movie to not essentially be a cute guy who gets by on enthusiasm, who you know.
So it was a stretch for you.
It was indeed.
And then Philadelphia. Did you lobby for that role?
No, I actually
This is Jonathan Demme.
This is which will be out I think in December. I had heard about it from my representatives, my crack staff of show business experts that helped me run my career, and
those people have made all the wise decisions.
They're all geniuses, each and every one of them, and I had a cursory meeting with a man I had never met before, which was Jonathan Demme, and we chatted for maybe 45 minutes. And then I didn't speak to him again until after he had sent me the script, which I read it. And that was it. I mean, a total amount of involvement was probably an hour and 15 minutes all told until I was involved.
But as soon as he met you, he said, "You're the guy." I mean,
no, not at all. I don't think he's capable of working that way. I think he's always well. So what did you think?
Yeah.
And he told me the story, and then months later I read it, and I just said, look, I think you have something here that is able to encompass a much grander story in a way that is going to be very, very approachable for everybody without any sort of political bent to it, and yet at the same time with a political bent.
he said about you that you know you're good and you know why.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think he meant?
I don't know. I think I am pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I can handle pretty much everything, given
And the why?
the time. Well, I don't know that. I'm not a real neurotic guy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty. I don't let a lot of stuff worry me. I'm probably very willing, more so, just to blindly throw myself down some path, without even second guessing myself. And maybe that's what he meant.
All right. Sleepless in Seattle. A lot of people are saying enthusiastic things about a film released this summer. Comes along, as I said in the introduction, when everybody's talking about Last Action Hero and cliffhangers and Jurassic Park. It is with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, and directed and written by the great Nora Ephron. And what Nora Ephron really always wanted to do was to direct. First, she had a celebrated career as a journalist at the New York Post and Esquire magazine. Then came Oscar nominations for screenplays like Silkwood and When Harry Met Sally. Finally, with This Is My Life, she got to call all the shots as a director. Now with Sleepless in Seattle, starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, she has entered the ranks of leading Hollywood directors, and we're pleased to have her here. Welcome.
Thank you.
The leading Hollywood directors.
Oh, that's me. Yep. Definitely on the cusp of it.
When you say this is a movie about love in a movie, I mean, what's this movie about?
Well, it's about maybe 10 things that we played with
Arnold again, right?
Consistently.
10 things.
At least, well, there were a bunch of them, but what I kept saying to everyone until they were driven crazy from it was, this is not a movie about love, it's a movie about love in the movies. Of course, we want it to be a movie about love, but one of the main themes of it is what movies do to your brain, the expectations you get from going to all those movies we went to when we were growing up and thinking that that's what love was. I mean, I grew up thinking that you were supposed to meet someone and banter with them forever.
Yeah, be funny and wisecracking and have
just forever and
lacerating
ever.
wit.
And actually, I remembered this week, as I have had only 200 or 300 interviews about this movie, that I once.
Oh, then we won't talk about the movie. The heck with it.
No. That once I had a date with someone that I truly hated, and I went home from it and thought to myself, maybe we're going to get married, because I'd seen so many movies where the couple just hate one another at the beginning and then they live happily ever after. So, anyway, that's part of what it's about.
So this is all unrealistic. This is just a...
Well, part of what we do in the movie is we hope we're going to become one of those movies that completely screw people up forever.
Yeah.
That is the dream here.
But tell me about love, though. I mean, is it unrealistic to think of love like Sam does in this film and like Annie does, that somehow there is magic and you can have that in your life? And
well, I don't know if it's unrealistic, but the truth is that I think people go back and forth their whole lives. They start out believing in this very pure, simple, stupid way about destiny and how there's one person out there and you're going to meet that person.
And that's stupid.
Well, maybe.
Well, is it stupid or not?
Well, I don't happen to, how could I possibly think? I can't make any sense of that. All I mean is that you kind of get a little more realistic and a little more cynical, and then things happen, and eventually, finally, after many mistakes that you thought were destiny, you find someone who was your destiny, and you say, oh, I see. I had to go through all the false destinies to get to the real destiny. You're constantly making up things to be destiny when in fact they probably aren't. But the thing I've noticed is that you can ask a truly miserable couple how they met, and their nostalgia for what brought them together transforms their entire
It's like
beings.
Annie's mother talking about it.
Well, no, but
that-
they probably are a happy
Yeah, right.
couple. But I think that everybody loves that story of what brought them together, and they make it, if not into destiny, they kind of fall in love with the little series of accidents. The sort of, what if I hadn't gone out to buy Band-Aids, you know?
To believe that there can be magic and that it can be the way it is in this movie, does that mean you're an unreconstructed romantic and therefore doomed to whatever?
Doomed to, I don't know what. No, I don't know. I don't think I'm an unreconstructed romantic. In fact, I now realize that, having read a couple of reviews, that I'm an ironic instead of a romantic.
And what's an ironic?
Well, it's somebody who is not romantic,
Yeah.
but sort of is more
Yeah.
more interested in the accidents than in the destiny of it, and in the power of this. But you know, this movie, where two people, you know, he's in Seattle, she's in Baltimore, is a sort of very peculiar mixture of these two things, in that Meg Ryan hears Tom on the radio. She thinks he's her destiny. She does not wait for him to come to Baltimore and find her.
Good for her.
You know, she then does an enormous number of things to make that happen. So.
All right.
Manufacturing her destiny.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Making her destiny
Right.
happen, or at least finding
Yes.
out. And then when she goes out there, she feels like that, what a lousy trip this was. How do you direct him?
Well, you don't.
Shouldn't I answer that?
Yeah.
No,
You
she's the
don't-
director.
No,
Then
you
I'll come
don't
back
really.
to
I mean, Tom has left the whole thing out in the early part of this show. The truth is that Tom is a great writer, and one of the things that's nice when you work with him on something that you're doing is that you start changing stuff. And he has great ideas for how to change them. And by the time he does many of his scenes, they've been worked through in a writing process, so that I think don't you think you feel like the lines are a little bit more?
Well, yeah, but that can be a trap too, because a lot of times you can say, I don't want to say that, and it ends up just being because you're cranky that day. You
Yeah.
don't want to say that. But we had the luxury of having, I don't know, like weeks and weeks, and essentially to fight in various rooms.
In
of the Four
rehearsal,
Seasons
or
Hotel.
just with respect to the script? I mean, you did
Well,
a lot of rehearsing
before
for
we
this?
went into rehearsal, we had many cranky meetings.
Yeah.
We did, and then by the time, okay, but every so often there was a line he just didn't want to say, really. And we finally, one of them we finally got out of him in looping. He just didn't want to. He kept mumbling.
What was the
it.
line?
Oh, I'm not going to say
Oh,
it.
come on,
But one
Nora.
of
What
my
was the
friends.
line?
I don't even remember what it was.
What was the line?
Good night, Howard.
Oh,
you
yeah,
just
yeah,
could not
yeah.
say it. He had
Big-
to kiss the teddy bear, and he couldn't
Say to the
do
teddy
it.
bear.
It was just too corny.
Why not? Corny.
I've seen the movie, and I didn't even remember that moment because it was a great moment when I saw the movie. I have. See, that's what happens. You can have this mantle of power put on you. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not. Don't ask me why. I can't.
I
We
feel
never-
cranky
we
today, and I
never
want to assert my
dis-
authority.
We never discussed it. It's just that time after time, every time he did the scene, he'd go, and one of my friends said last night, "Did you add something about the bear? Because I'd never heard that line before." I said, "Looping. We got it in looping." He finally agreed to say it.
See, that goes back to that. She knows what the scene is about, so she drives you to that water hole, kicking and screaming, as the case may be.
Now, what's going to happen to these two characters now that you leave at the end of this film? I mean, are we left with what's going to happen to them? Are you optimistic about this relationship?
Oh, God, yes. Of course. Of course. And you know something else? I'm never going to have to think about it again. That's the really great thing. They're done. They're going to walk off together with their matching noses, and they're going to live happily ever after.
Their matching
It'll be
noses?
great. It'll be fine. And I basically think that Rosie O'Donnell and Rob Reiner will end
Right.
up together, and Bill Pullman and Barbara Garrick will end. Everyone will. All the people who are 3,000 miles away from one
in
another
fact,
are
they were
really
meant-
meant
they
for
were
each
meant
other.
for each other in the first
they
place.
They were,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Now, there is, in fact, tell me about this film and the sort of what the lure of this film is, because we all know what's going to happen in the end, and what we are interested in is how you get us there, right? Am I-
Well,
yeah, I think that
yeah.
was
That's
the
the
strength
nation.
of it when
and
it
that
was
was
on
the
paper.
and that's the danger. I mean, the thing we were all fascinated to see the first time we showed it to a group of people who had not read the screenplay and did not know what a good idea this was
Yeah.
whether they were going to say, what? They don't meet until almost,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, the when?
That's what I thought
You know.
when I.
Yeah.
And so you got to make that interesting, and
Well,
you got
I
to
just
have that
think, you know,
powerful idea.
whenever you read something, from my point of view, I just came in as the fourth writer on this,
Yeah.
you know.
And that was all you were going to do, is rewrite the script.
3 weeks and goodbye. And
Yeah.
all you're looking for is something, anything that gives you like a minor raise in your heartbeat. Not much. You know, you're looking to go to about a 78, that's all.
Yeah.
And this was full of little things that were just waiting to happen. You know,
Yeah.
the movie stuff and An Affair to Remember and the whole idea that we all do truly believe when we're 15 years old that there's one perfect person out there. And the global village stuff. You know, this thing that we really do have where there are all these 800 numbers connecting us, and we hear the same jokes. Everyone in America hears the same jokes in 24 hours. Your kids all come home from school with the same stupid jokes. One day it's blonde jokes, the next day it's boy jokes. I mean, it's one after another. To play with that stuff, to have it happen in both places, and to find ways to make these people connected when they weren't, was like a game. It was a sort of great puzzle.
In the writing of the script.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know what this is about. This is what it's about. Just listen and do the scene.
Well, yes, sometimes, but the truth is that if you can keep sort of at it and not lose your mind, you sometimes get some great thing. And what you're really looking for is for the actor to find his way into the scene in some way. It may just be, not in the case of this scene, but it may be just a prop you give them or something that they suddenly see how to do it. This is not a particularly hard scene that we were looking at, and we had basically built the set so that the mirror and the ipecac were, and the map, you know, so that we could get as much movement as we could into it. And of course, we had Sven Nykvist shooting it.
The
who is,
cinematographer,
you know, one of the only people who could shoot a room that big as simply as he does, you know, and not worry that when Tom goes to get the ipecac, you can't see him. Sven doesn't care about that. Another cinematographer would have spent 2 hours putting a little spotlight on Tom so that you could see him at the medicine cabinet. It's not the point of the scene. The point of the scene is, what am I doing?
Right.
You know.
Keep me from going out on this date,
Yeah.
and yet I can't wait to get away from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you, how many scenes did that, how many, was that one,
Takes.
no, take, yeah.
We did a lot of takes and a lot of coverage.
Because it's-
it was actually weird though, because we were sort of making two different movies. We had Meg's movie where she got to be in this movie with all these grown-ups, and then there was Tom's movie where he was basically in a movie with an 8-year-old.
Tell me what you just said, if you will.
Oh, I told her that I had not seen the final score.
Yeah.
But it's a very, when you get the soundtrack, it's a very eclectic mix of music.
Yeah, it
but
is. It really is all over
It all
the place,
fits
yeah.
very
Yeah.
seamlessly. It all, it's that kind of thing that she was talking about earlier, is that we get so much. We now score our own lives according to music that you know, from Gene Autry to I don't know, to Iggy Pop, and she was able to do that from a total variety radio sort of format.
Who helped you do that? I mean, where do you...
Nick Myers, our music editor, and Mark Shaman. And it was, you know, one of the things we do in this movie is An Affair to Remember, that old tearjerker with Cary Grant and Deborah Carr is a kind of character, a little running character.
It has a running role in this film.
And Nick
It's
Myers...
seen by everybody.
Yes. Nick Myers, our music editor, had this great idea that we could use the score from An Affair to Remember, and went out to this warehouse at 20th Century Fox and found it in a can in the warehouse, put it on a machine, made one copy, the original disintegrated.
Really?
Yeah, and we now have, you know, it's in those days, it was 150 violins in a room. It was the most amazing noise. So that was, you know.
What did you do differently in directing this that you didn't in your debut?
Well, you know,
I'm interested in the arc of directing, how you were sort of progressing along this.
Well, first of all, whenever you start directing, the second day you would like to cancel everything you did the first day, and the third week you'd like to throw out the first 2 weeks. Especially when you start out, you learn so much every single week that you kind of feel like a fool for not knowing it. So I knew a lot more when I started this. I know a lot more now that I'm done with it, but the truly when you work with, you know, Mike Medavoy, the head of TriStar, said to me, go get the greatest cinematographer you can get. And 2 days later, I called him up and said, I did. And, you know, you go and work with with Ingmar Bergman, cinematographer. And this was my second movie. It was Sven Nykvist's 102nd movie.
And so what do you say to him? How do you make this relationship work between this great cinematographer and this second time out director?
Well, the only thing I can bring to this thing is that I always know what the scene's about.
Yeah.
And that's quite a lot, as it turns out. If you can figure out what people should do in the room. Sven is very simple, and he also, the other thing about him that's great is that he shoots long scenes. He did them all with Bergman, so he certainly knows how to do them with me. And it used to operate, they used to do...
A long scene is 10 minutes or 5 minutes?
Well, in that case, it was 10 minutes. Yeah. They used to shoot until the film ran out in the camera, and they would be at a round table, and they'd cut a hole in the middle for Sven, and they'd put 8 people around it, and they would just improvise the scene, and he would move from person to person until they ran out of film. So my little 3 and 4 minute scenes, which one loves to do, and especially now that I can direct my own scripts and nobody can tell me to cut my scenes because they're mine. You know, Sven loves to do that.
Yeah. This was shot in sequence, was it not?
No.
Oh, it wasn't. I thought somebody told me it was shot in sequence. It wasn't at all.
Oh, absolutely not.
So
no, but we did shoot the ending last, but that's because it was here in New York.
No, so you had to be really good. I mean, you going from...
Oh, that's the beast. You know, you just gotta be comfortable with that and jump all around.
But we shot the beginning second to last, so
that's right.
You know,
second to last.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the first thing we shot? Wasn't it? Were we at the airport? The scene we just saw, wasn't it? Very early on.
Yeah. When you tell me what was going through your mind. I mean, that scene where you look and you see her coming off the thing, you know, and then you take the shot. Now, what's going through your head when you do that kind of? I mean, what are you saying to yourself? When it's just shooting you, you know, no words.
Yeah, well, I was kind of lucky that it was Meg, who one is, she's, very lovely creature and also a good friend. So it was kind of like, oh, well, now look at her. But we've all done that in one way or another. We've all caught a glimpse of a member, usually of the opposite sex, out of the corner of our eye, which made our, which made our head swivel and just say, will you look at her or him, as the case may be. We have all done that, and I have, in younger days, found myself like making sure that I could, they're turning left. Yeah. I think I'll turn left too, in order to see which way they're going. So it's a common piece of our own lives, and in that case, talking about our own, it's punctuated a moment where there's no such thing as a perfect ... Well, it's very easy to look at Meg and say, well, now wait a minute, maybe there is.
What was hardest for you in making this film?
Almost nothing. This
was a snap?
No, this was not a hard movie. In fact, I remember when we were in Baltimore, and it was about...
Which is where Meg's location
Where
is.
Meg lives. It was 3 in the morning, and we had been eating crab cakes all night long. This is a very nice...
Oh, you don't know this.
I wasn't there, but...
From the point of view of food. And it was about 90 degrees, and Sven was lighting this scene on the dock where Meg walks out when Bye Bye Blackbird is playing. And I said to myself, I could shoot this movie forever and be completely happy. That's what I felt. I had very, very nice actors, very low maintenance actors. I mean, this is your dream when you direct.
Except when he was cranky.
Well,
yeah, but even then he wasn't high maintenance. He was just cranky, you know.
Cranky maintenance.
Yeah.
This is the kind of film you want to make. I mean, when you look at Jurassic Park and you look at Last Action Hero and Cliffhanger, you somehow want to say to an audience in America, I mean, this is a kind of signature piece for you, is it? At this stage in your development, you don't even want to say that.
How do I know? But I certainly don't ever think I'm going to be hired to do a Schwarzenegger movie.
No,
I don't.
But I don't mean that. But I mean, and a lot of special effects is not what you want to do. You want to tell what kind of stories? I mean, I assume you're a director because you want to tell stories.
We have an almost automobile accident in this movie that took us a day to shoot with a lot of screeching of
almost
tires.
Automobile accident.
When Meg is
right.
I don't want to give too much away, and we shot it, and it took a day, and it was really boring. 19 different shots to make this basically 42 seconds of film. And everyone was very impressed that I could figure out how to do this. And at the end of it, I thought, I would just like to get Peter Yates to come in and do those scenes in my movies, and then I'll go do 6 girls sitting around a table talking. That's what I want to do. I mean, I can do them. It's sort of math, you know, if one person's here and one person's here, you know that one camera has to be there and the other has to be there. But the fun is, for me, the fun is what's happening to the people.
What's the emotional connection?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
You call this in the film. Clearly, there was a scene in which there's a scene which you called a chickie movie.
A chick's movie.
A chick's movie. Meaning,
It's hounding me. It's hounding me for saying it.
it's her line.
Well,
No, that was Tom's line.
Oh, that was your line.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Because she says this is a movie. This scene, which is the big discussion about An Affair to Remember,
Right.
is about boys and girls.
Right.
This is what Nora said. This is a scene about boys and girls, about how boys think this one way and how girls think this other way. So this very attractive actress, who I also happen to be married to, tells this big long story about An Affair to Remember, which is probably the quintessential chicks movie. There's just no getting around it.
Yeah.
And so at the time, with the appropriate time, I just said, well, it sounds like a
chicks movie.
Sounds like a chicks movie. I don't think Sleepless is so much of a chicks movie. But.
And you liked the line and you left it in. And
we liked everything. That whole Dirty Dozen thing that
yeah,
Tom
and then
did, that's all improvised.
That's all improvised. There's
Yep.
a great. I just got to tell you what it is. I mean, and he then starts crying.
About the Dirty
Dozen.
Dozen.
And your real life wife is playing.
Because when I was 11 years, whenever I saw the Dirty Dozen,
you didn't cry.
That was a seminal experience for me.
Was it?
As seeing An Affair to Remember was certainly when all those guys have died and Richard Jekyll is left.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal. Now and that's a guy's movie. There's no doubt about it.
But An Affair to Remember is truly mystifying to men. And we watched it in rehearsal. We watched the end of it, and Tom is sitting there just horrified that anyone can say anything good about the ending.
Yeah.
Just saying,
Yeah,
you
but
are
why
ridiculous,
don't
you
you
are
feel
idiots. But you know what it reminded me of is the way we all felt, I can't speak for your wife, when I went to see Field of Dreams with my husband, and he started crying. You know, men are just as dumb as women. All you have to do is show them a cold father who says, let's play catch. Out of the blue, he says, let's play catch,
Hey, now,
right?
hey, look, I hope you're not joking around about that, Nora, 'cause that's pretty heavy stuff.
Now, do you think this is a chickies movie, the Sleepless in
No,
Seattle?
no,
Why not?
no,
Why isn't it though? I mean, it's about love. It's about the magic of love. It's about two people on two continents sort of coming together. Why isn't?
Because it's very reflective of both sides of the equation, the male and the female thing. I was watching it last night. This is the second time that I saw the movie.
Right.
And I was very impressed. At the end, Sam doesn't say anything when he finally gets together with the perfect woman. He just kind of stands there and looks and looks and looks. He doesn't say a funny quip. When men are really struck, in the head by the lightning bolt of the gods and think, oh my goodness, I think I love this woman, we usually just kind of stand there soaking it all in. It's not. There's not that moment where the incredibly sappy music kicks in.
So it was not sappy, is that it?
Well,
because it wasn't the violins as you go off into the sunset.
It wasn't somebody telling us, see, now they're falling in love. That we were seeing both sides,
so
the
it's
male
not a
and the
chickies movie
female.
because of the
Well, and
restraint
it's a
of the
comedy.
director.
The truth is that most of the things we think of as true women's movies are kind of gloopy.
What
Gloopy?
What other ones would there be?
Oh,
besides-
Random Harvest. Oh my God! Now Voyager.
Random
I don't know that film.
Waterloo Bridge.
You know these?
These
I'm
aren't
familiar with
these
a lot
aren't
of
romantic comedies. You would never say that the Tracy Hepburn movies were chicks movies.
They were romantic
They
comedies.
were, yes. It Happened One Night is not a chicks movie.
And what about James Garner and Doris Day and all those films? Were they?
Those? I don't know how to describe what they were.
Those were aberrations of the 50s.
That was a 50s aberration. Yeah. Now, when you were doing this film, what were you convinced you? What were you not trying to make sure you didn't do? I mean, some sense of not making it too sappy. Were you trying to make sure that you kept at a certain level of restraint so that people didn't say this is one more sappy movie?
Yeah, I think we were worried about
Yeah.
a lot of things like
A level of what?
I mean, I think the thing that seemed very important to me was that it seemed funny enough that you would be cutting into that, and smart enough. You know, what you hope is that you can make a movie that's sort of fabulously dumb and smart at the same time. And that's
what does that mean, make it fabulously dumb and smart?
Well, dumb in the way that bail me out.
Well, you know what? It's a matter that.
See, that's a perfect example of Nora.
that the
It
con-
sounded good.
I
and
think-
then
I
you say,
can
"What
say
the
I can
heck?"
explain it, but
think I
I'm
know what
going to dig
she's talking
myself
about.
into a hole.
Is that the contrivances aren't so fake that you know it's fake.
Yeah.
Is that the contrivances are just real enough to fall into movie-making conventions,
Okay.
but still, I think, surprise the audience, that they're not aware of obviously what is coming on down the pike. I think that's what.
Yeah, is that-
And a movie, and that's what separates like An Affair to Remember from The Dirty Dozen, is that well you can see what's happened.
Yeah.
100
Now,
miles.
there was some notion about Julia Roberts was going to come in on this film at some point, and they would bring in Gary Marshall or something like that.
Well-
Give me a little movie history.
Well, as I said, I was the fourth writer, and
Right.
then I wrote this script and turned it in. And it actually was a sort of comical episode from my point of view, although not from Gary Foster. Gary Foster was our producer, and he'd been on this movie for 3 years. And suddenly we had a good script, and everybody seemed to be saying they wanted to do it. And suddenly Julia Roberts allegedly wanted to do it. And this was right when The Player had come out. Remember, every time there's a meeting in The Player in the movie business, they keep saying, I think we can get Julia for
right,
this. I
right,
think we.
right.
Suddenly,
She's saying,
only Julia was going around the world and was phoning in for 2 minutes from Tokyo and saying sort of things that were broken up by
So it was
transatlantic
jungle
and
drum beats.
Pacific.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It was,
pounding all
you
over
know,
town.
There's
but
heat
there
here,
was
there's heat,
a
there's heat,
moment
there's heat.
where all of us were off the movie who had been on it only a week before. You know, the producer was off. I was really off the movie. And then suddenly the dust cleared and there we all were.
anything about your performance as you watched it last night for the second time in which you said, if I could only do that scene? Thousands.
Countless.
No, I mean,
all
a
the
lot.
way- all the way through.
Well, he probably did do it differently. It's just that I got to pick.
Oh,
you know.
you look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I mumble? Why did I swallow that? And why am I so loud on that? And why? Oh, geez.
Yeah, all that.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, and you?
Oh, don't.
Cuts.
Oh, yes, music stuff that I want to go back in, and I'm not happy with a million. You know, about 10 things.
What
about
would make
10
you
things.
really happy?
What would make? I am really happy.
Okay, great.
It's,
Nora Ephron, thank you. Tom Hanks, great to have you.
Great.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Sleepless in Seattle, opening at theaters around the country. Thank you for joining us this evening. See you tomorrow night. Thanks, Nora.